It's hard to avoid the noise this time of year. As Election Day grows closer, it's getting louder as campaigns turn up their efforts to get your vote. And soon, the decision will be in your hands as the voter, and that's what this episode's all about.
There's nothing that says that a law has to be written in confusing language.
Why ballots can be so wordy and confusing.
And it's not that they're dumb. Literacy is not about intelligence.
And while many issues are grabbing headlines, which ones will really drive people to the polls? This is The Race. Right now we're driving into the small town of Cambridge, Maryland. It is most famous for being the birthplace of Harriet Tubman. But the reason we're here is this town is also home to as good an expert as you will find anywhere when it comes to how ballots are structured. I've always wondered as a voter why ballot questions that are so important have to be written in ways that are wordy and often very complicated to understand.
So I'm gonna sneak behind you and get into this box, which is my secret box of hundreds of ballots. So here we go, it should be in here.
I've met few people who look at ballots the way Whitney Quisenberry does. When you take a first glance at a ballot, how quickly can you determine whether it's a good one or not?
Pretty fast.
What are the key things that you look at?
I look at text size, right? Is it large enough to readable? Is it a good clear font that's easy to read? I'm looking for line spacing, right? Easy to read text size, good line spacing.
Out of this home office, she runs the Center for Civic Design.
Our motto is democracy is a design problem.
The group works with election offices in both red and blue states to make ballots more user-friendly. She's currently researching what trips voters up.
The most common thing for them to tell us is that they were baffled by the questions.
Just take the abortion rights question that Kansas voters recently faced on their August ballot. One question, 240 words in all. Voting yes would have meant supporting restricting the right to an abortion through a change to the state's constitution.
It was one of those that I find hardest because you have to repeal something to make something happen.
Then there's this one Texas voters faced in May. 77 words asking whether the amount elderly and disabled people pay in property taxes should be capped. Technically, this is one sentence.
Which means that someone who doesn't read well, someone who doesn't read English well, someone who may not understand our system of government and it's the details of how laws get passed, might have trouble.
As far as who writes questions, Whitney says it varies by state. Either those in state legislatures or citizen groups who receive enough signatures to get it on a ballot.
There's no reason not to. There's nothing that says that a law has to be written in confusing language. It's just habit. It's habit of the legal profession. It's how laws work. You think you're being very grown up to use all those big words.
Do you feel that some questions are confusing on purpose?
I am sure there are questions that are confusing on purpose. I think, or they're either deliberately confusing on purpose or they're written in a way that puts the framers of them in the best possible light.
Whitney's work is having an impact. For example, this fall, Georgia absentee voters will see a cleaner list of rules before they sign their ballot. Bullet points and fewer words.
It says exactly the same thing. We didn't change the law. We didn't change what it has to say. We changed how it said it.
As far as how we can all have a smoother voting experience the next time we face a ballot,
I would urge you to look at multiple sources, right? So that you're not just getting one viewpoint, and then find the combination of them that help you make the decision. But you can't do it standing in the ballot box. I mean, when you're there, you've got a couple of minutes, you're marking your ballot. That's not the time to start parsing out that sentence. This is something you really have to make a plan for. And if you think it's too hard, tell your state legislator.
Let's talk about waves, shall we? No, not the kind at the ocean, political waves. For most of this year, the conventional thinking was that a political red wave was about to sweep the country. That's what happened to Democratic presidents. Bill Clinton in 1994. President Barack Obama in 2010. A lot of people thought that would happen to President Joe Biden this year. But something is changing with the tides politically in our country that's giving Democrats hope that they can make this midterm election close.
Thanks for being here.
I know polls are controversial and sometimes wrong, but we don't have much else to go on when it comes to the popularity of the president. Real Clear Politics, a nonpartisan website, has averaged all of Mr. Biden's recent polling. Right now, he's at around 42% approval rating. 55% of the country disapproves of him. Since we're talking about waves, the polls show the president is underwater. That's good news for conservatives, bad news for progressives. That's why the House of Representatives is still projected to flip this election. But as we hit the final stretch, Democrats are feeling more optimistic. Why? Reason number one, this election will be close. Democrats got some of their priorities passed between climate change reform, prescription drug changes, and student loan forgiveness. That may just be enough to motivate some Democratic voters who usually sit out the midterm elections. Of course, Republicans voted against those things, and the new policies will likely motivate them too. Reason number two, gas prices are falling. Last month, gas prices averaged $4.36 a gallon. Last week, they averaged $3.88. Prices are getting closer to $3.18 that the average gallon of gas cost this time last year. In fact, a recent NBC News poll listed threats to democracy as the number one issue on voters' minds this election. Gas prices and inflation were number two. Reason number three, election results and abortion rights. In New York last week, no poll had Democrat Pat Ryan winning his congressional race, but he did. His campaign primarily focused on abortion. And in conservative-leaning Kansas this month, voters defeated a measure that would have created new restrictions. Those results are leading some political observers to wonder if Democrats are stealing some Republican voters over the issue of abortion. I'm Joe St. George reporting.
Although the presidential election isn't for a couple of years, there's a growing debate about how we pick our commander-in-chief. Both sides of the debate when it comes to the Electoral College. Next on The Race.